Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, I want to talk about making mistakes today, and this also in combination with the huge amount of images and technology we live with, because I think it's nowadays we live in an era where everything is about perfection and everything is pointing towards perfection. But I think in a thinking process or in a creative process that it's very important to make mistakes, and sometimes if they are not there, to deliberately make mistakes. And this is also a new way to find a different way, or to find a different path towards a certain solution. I mean, without making mistakes, a company would never innovate, or without making mistakes, you would never find a new creative way to do something. And today I just want to, because it's more a column that I show some images, where I also get this inspiration from, and for making mistakes, and also where how I use these mistakes sometimes in my work. So first of all, I like to show a sequence of images that I just collect from internet with terrible mistakes, and these are is a series of construction mistakes, and I mean it's very you can learn a lot from these images, and I mean, they are done by kind of very bad construction workers, of course. And sometimes, I mean, in this case, I think more people have seen this billboard than when it would be perfect, or when it would be the other way around. Also, things like this, and yeah, like this bike path is made with a terrible mistake, and yeah, this one I took myself to photograph. It's like a parking space, but totally difficult to enter. And yeah, here also something goes wrong. And yeah, this one very stupid as well. Yeah, here you kind of know what is going wrong. And yeah, there's many different stop signs, totally wrongly written. Here, supermarket goes totally wrong. Yeah, here you know what is going to happen. It's the end of the balcony soon. And there's a lot of balconies with a lot of mistakes, but this one, very funny as well. But then, funny enough, I also have, to come back to the last speaker, I have a lot of toilets as well. Toilets with mistakes, because you can find them anywhere. And it's probably the place where most mistakes are made. And yeah, this is like a disabled toilet, totally not functional. Here also a very smart solution to open and close the door. And this one, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work, but and this one is I think the most beautiful. It's like a double function, you know, you can wash your hands and you wash your dick while you take a piss, and then that is quite nice. Yeah, so how, oh yeah, the next thing is a video which also shows some of these images from internet, and also how, yeah, I mean, these are quite inspiring images to me. It's all about the decisive moment, also these images. Okay. Yeah, you can learn a lot from these. Maybe not everybody, but in my case. So I'd just like to show one example how I sometimes use these mistakes also in a job. And for instance, this is a hotel we work for. It's also our first client when we started the agency in 1996. It's like a 500-bed budget hotel in the center of Amsterdam. And when it was, I mean, it was the first client that called, so I was quite delighted. I went there the next day, and it was the biggest nightmare or the biggest shithole I saw in my life. So really bad hotel, and we thought like, geez, what do we have to make out of this? And soon we thought like, okay, maybe honesty is the only luxury they have. So that is what we use then also in the communication for many years now. So we said like now a bed in every room, now more rooms without a window, like a door in every room. Yeah, also in Amsterdam, even more dog shit in the main entrance. And this was also done for real at the central station. We stuck like flags into dog shit saying now even more of this at our main entrance. And also in the hotel itself, we kind of put like this A3 cardboard card that you saw on your bed when you check in. And when you have a pair of scissors on you, you can cut all these kind of luxury items out of the cardboard card and then pimp up your room with it. Yeah, these are some campaigns that we did. So this is one where we borrowed some imagery from 5-star hotels and put all these asterisks on there. And on the right hand bottom it says not included. So literally nothing is included. Yeah, and another campaign was all about the people that visited the hotel. So we turned around this kind of classical advertising trick of before and after, and here it says check in, check out. The Hans Brinker Budget Hotel, so you have all these before and afters. And in another campaign we thought, okay, how bad can we make it? I mean, this is like almost the end of it, so we thought like we can't make it any worse, but that's what we used for our next campaign. It said like Hans Brinker Budget Hotel, it can't get any worse, but we'll do our best. So there are all these kind of smart solutions in the hotel how you can make it better. I mean, here the image on the right looks a little bit more promising than the image on the left. Yeah, so in the end, quite a successful campaign. This is the last one I want to show of this. There were all these design hotels, and the Hans Brinker Budget Hotel had also unique design. Yeah, and then I think a lot of the inspiration I also get sometimes from images you find on internet, as you saw already, but also images you find in family albums, images made by amateurs. And sometimes I also make exhibitions with these albums that I collected, and yeah, it's always a nice thing to look at, because there is a certain like a typical thing that how people make their albums, because the first album they always make is like when there's a marriage, or their first child. That is an excessive moment where people photograph. And you see always these first albums totally full of their first child. But when they don't have a child and they can't get children, then they fill them up totally with images of their dog or their cat. And I mean, this is like an album from France, totally filled up with that. And when they can't have children and they don't like pets, then they make an album with their car, and they excessively fill that. I mean, albums are totally different in different countries. For instance, this is a Swiss album, which is very precise. Everything very neatly stuck and written down. But then this is like an American album where everything is just thrown in. And albums are generally very boring, and I mean, it's unbelievable how, I mean, these are two people that went on holiday, two girls in Benidorm, totally bored out of their head, and they just started to photograph each other and filled up the album with that. And here a man photographed his wife with a blue umbrella constantly the whole day. And here are some more private pictures in albums. And yeah, like you find beautiful, also in a way, mistakes that you can use also for other inspiration. And yeah, that's where I often yeah, look at and find new ways. These are, of course, there's the classic finger in front of the lens. Through all ages you have that. And then there's also, of course, the camera strap in front of the lens. So the whole day, there in all the series of pictures, there's the camera strap in front of the lens. And then there's people erased from pictures because they didn't want them in the album anymore. Very brutally cut out of the image. And yeah, this I think is one of the nicest one in that series, because it's actually like a wedding picture, and they probably got divorced, and the woman cut herself loose from her husband. The only thing that is there is still the arm of her ex-husband still on there. So that's quite nice. And then to finish today, I make also a series of books it's called In Almost Every Picture. The book is called, the whole series has that name. And here also only pictures of amateurs, but then amateurs that really make like a certain story with those images, without them even knowing sometimes. So I go quickly through. This is one that I found on the internet, where an amateur from Japan, he had a rabbit, and he found out that the rabbit can balance everything on his head. So on his website every day there was a new picture of the rabbit that was called Oolong. And he could balance anything on his head. So every day you would really get yeah, quite surprised, and it really makes your day. And when you are creative, then I mean, at least you get fueled in the morning, and then by these kind of things. I mean, Oolong was a great acrobat and balancer, but at a certain moment it went not so well with him, and he got ill, and but then one day I saw this picture, and the next day I thought I'll go back to the site again, but then there was this picture, that was the last one. So these are two carrots stuck in the snow, it's not his ears. Another one which is quite strange is an album that I found where two people with their dog were fighting against one of the big mysteries in photography, and that's like how to shoot my black dog. And that failed all their life. So they started to photograph the dog, but never, the dog was always one big black phantom. And like, I mean, sadly enough, they also bought a black couch, so the dog wasn't visible on the couch. And also outdoor, they managed to always position the dog that it was never photographed. And I mean, here as well, in bright sunlight, not happening. And yeah, so it was one big failure and one big mistake in a way. But then at the end, I found one picture where they really were pushing the film, and then finally they made it. They made one very overexposed image where you saw the dog. And the last thing I'll show today is that's also one of the books that I did, and maybe not so much of a mistake, but it's in a way it is a little bit, because these are two people from Florida, and I found it on Flickr, and I had contact with them. And this is Fred and Valerie, and Fred is the photographer. And Fred is very much, he likes to photograph Valerie in the water. And So he's very, it's kind of a fetish, and for them it's kind of yeah, like in the beginning it's quite normal, but then it starts to get very awkward, and Valerie has to get wet in the fountain, and they go a bit more frisky, and when it's raining it's fantastic for them, and yeah, they're quite beautiful pictures, and for them it's like their best thing in their life, and it's yeah, even in the winter Valerie goes in the water, and I mean, so I made the book in the end. This is almost like a modern Ophelia, and yeah, so then in the book, when the book was finished, I thought I'll send the book to him, and then onto them, and then they have to make a picture for me, and yeah, here it says like that for them it was like a tantalizing intrigue, and they loved the whole business, so it was almost like a Droste effect where, I mean, Valerie went with the book in the water again. Thank you very much.